This is a lesson to review the concept of identifying subjects and verbs in simple sentences, and it is based on the information in your textbook in Chapter 21, which is on pages 419 to 423. Let's get started by reviewing how to identify a subject. When you have a sentence and you want to find the subject of that sentence, the question that you're going to want to use is you're going to want to ask, who or what is this sentence about? And then your answer to that question is going to be the subject of the sentence. So if we look at these examples here below, the children laughed, and we ask ourselves, who or what is the sentence about? The answer is children, as you see here in red. Several branches fell. Who or what is that sentence about? It is about the branches. And then finally, most students passed the test. Who or what is the sentence about? It's about the students. Next, we're going to review how to identify verbs in your sentence. To find a verb, you need to ask what the sentence says about the subject. And your answer to that question will be the verb. So if we look at this first example here, the children laughed. Well, what about the children? They laughed, and you'll see the answer in blue there. Several branches fell. What about the branches? They fell. And most students passed the test. Well, what about the students? They passed. So remember, when we're trying to find the subject, the question that we ask is who or what is the sentence about? And when we're trying to find the verb, the question that we ask is what does the sentence say about the subject? The next thing that we need to review is a few extra rules that are included in this chapter in your textbook. One of them is here, and this is regarding pronouns. This is just to tell you that words such as he, she, it, we, you, or they can serve as the subject of a sentence. So just because they aren't a noun by themselves, they're a pronoun, they're in place of a noun, they also can be the subject of a sentence, as you'll see in these examples below. He seems like a lonely person. Again, who or what is the sentence about? He. And they both like to gamble. Who or what is the sentence about? They. Now, another thing we need to be aware of is that in a sentence you may have more than one subject or more than one verb. It can have more than one subject, more than one verb, or several subjects and several verbs. So we've got a few examples here for you. My heart skipped and pounded. Again, you're always going to use those same two questions to help you identify the subjects and the verbs. Who or what is the sentence about? Heart. What about my heart? It skipped and pounded. So I have two verbs in this first example. The money and credit cards were stolen from the wallet. Who or what is the sentence about? It's about two things, the money and the credit cards. And what about those things? They were stolen. And then finally, you'll see in the last example here, a sentence that has two subjects and two verbs. Dave and Ellen prepared the report together and presented it to class. Who or what is the sentence about? It's about both Dave and Ellen, and what about them? They prepared and presented. The next thing that we need to review is regarding prepositions, and this is really important. You'll see on page 421 in your book that there is a blue box that lists all of these prepositions that I've identified for you here on this page. Anytime your textbook includes a blue box like this, that's always information that you need to review and look at explicitly and then memorize to some extent because it's a key point for you with that chapter. The reason prepositions are so important is because the subject of a sentence will never appear within a prepositional phrase. And a prepositional phrase is simply a group of words that begins with a preposition and ends with a noun. What you see down here is a list of pretty common prepositions. So one of these words would be the first word in the prepositional phrase, and it would go through until it ends with the noun. That whole part of the sentence would be the prepositional phrase. And what you're going to want to do is be able to identify those prepositions, and you want to cross out the prepositional phrases in sentences when you are looking for the subject of a sentence. So you would start at the preposition and you would cross out through the noun at the end of the phrase. So we've got five sample sentences for you here that we're going to look for these prepositional phrases within. Doing this is going to help you be more successful in finding the correct subject and verb of a sentence. So when we look at these 5 sentences here, and these are sentences from your book on page 421, you'll see that I've highlighted in green all of the prepositions in each of these sentences. Remember, I have only highlighted the preposition. The prepositional phrase starts with a preposition under, and it goes through to the noun, under my pillow. Okay, same thing here. The preposition is by, and it goes through to the noun at the end of it, by the tooth fairy. Okay, when you cross them out then, what you'll see is that the rest of the sentence is all that is left. So in that first example, once you've crossed out those two prepositional phrases, the only information you have left is, I found a quarter left. Who or what is that sentence about? I. What about me? I found. Okay, if we look here at the second, if we look here at the second sentence and we cross off these prepositional phrases of the yellow lights and at the school crossing, all we're left with is one began flashing. Well, that makes it really easy to find the subject and verb when you start asking your questions. Who or what is the sentence about? One. What about it? What about one? One began, and there's your verb. You go through each of these. When you've crossed out the prepositional phrase, the comic pages have disappeared. Well, who or what is this sentence about? It's about pages. A lot of students would commonly make the mistake of thinking that it was the newspaper here because this is the word that's right before the verb. But we realize once we've crossed out this prepositional phrase and the only words we have left are the comic pages have disappeared, when we ask our question, who or what is the sentence about? It's about the pages. What about the pages? They have disappeared. You'll see the final two examples here. Once you've crossed out the prepositional phrases, it's very easy to find the subjects and the verbs without making any mistakes. Finally, a few reminders about finding verbs. There's a few things you need to remember here. These words, not, just, never, only, and always, are not part of the verb, even though they appear within the middle of a verb. So here you've got Larry did not finish the paper before class. Who or what is the sentence about? It's about Larry. What about Larry? He did finish. Not is not included in your answer when you are identifying the verb because it's in this list up here above. Okay? The same is true here. Who or what is this sentence about? The road. What about the road? Was completed. Those are the only two words that you would include as part of your verb. Just does not get included. Anytime you have a verb that's preceded by the word to, it will never be the verb of a sentence. So just like it's important to continue crossing off your prepositional phrases to get rid of those extra words, these additional rules and reminders will help you to make sure you're identifying the correct subjects and verbs. Sputter can be a verb sometimes, but we know in this sentence that it is not functioning as a verb because the word right before it is to, which means it can never be the verb of this sentence. The same is true in this bottom example here as well. Avoid is sometimes a verb, but when you see this word here in front of it, you know that indeed it cannot be the verb. And then finally, ing words. Ing often indicates that a word is part of a verb, but it can only be part of the verb, as it says here, if it has a helping verb in front of it. So if you are ever choosing an ing word as part of your verb, it has to have a helping verb that goes along with it in order for it to be correct.